COVID-19 impact the housing market heavily. Negatively, it depends on how you look at it. But first, full disclosure. I run two companies. One is a company of dedicated people who support internationals with buying and finding homes to rent in Amsterdam and Eindhoven. The second is a company that supports landlords with renting out their homes in Amsterdam. Because of this, it's easy to think that I might be biased towards the positive and to downplay the impact of COVID-19. And by nature, I try to be level-headed and make sure that my emotions do not interfere with projections. I have businesses to run and people who are depending on me. Meltdowns and emotional outbursts are not part of my job description. I'm also not an economist, nor an acknowledged housing market expert. Part of running a business, though, means that I read the news daily, listen to market experts, specialists, and economists, and look at what is happening around me to try and connect the dots, to project what will happen and base both personal and business decisions on. Furthermore, I believe in transparency. In kickstarting a good conversation, I'm not always right, and that it would be a waste to waste a good crisis. So in light of the latter, here are my 2 cents on the impact COVID-19 will have on the housing market. Let's first paint a broader picture, though. There's currently a shortage on the Dutch housing market of approximately 331,000 homes. To meet demand up until 2030, the amount of homes that needs to be built is 845,000. That's 84,500 homes per year. However, due to nitrogen and environmental regulations, the amount of properties that's expected to be built will decrease from 71,000 last year to 55 this and 50,000 next year. This means that we're already behind, and who knows what will happen afterwards. There will be regional differences, but considering basic supply and demand, this could have a net positive impact on the value of properties in the Netherlands. And now let's consider what's going on the demand side of things. The news currently is that more properties are being sold and more are offered. That's great news. COVID-19, however, has shaken up things thoroughly in countries all over the world, but also in this beloved country we call the Netherlands. The actual depth of the crisis, however, not felt in the Netherlands, and this will definitely influence the housing market. Why? Let me explain. Consumer trust is one of the key indicators of whether people will spend or save their money. If they stop spending money, this will have an impact on the economy. I believe there's 3 key factors that might influence the consumer trust index in the following 90 to 180 days. First is the unemployment rate, which as per April 2020 was at 3.4% of the Dutch workforce. Thanks to the government's speedy response, 121,000 companies have been able to apply for the NOW scheme, which covers 90% of the payroll costs calculated based on revenue loss. A total number of 1.7 million people work at the companies that receive NOW. This scheme, however, runs till October, which means that after October, companies will have to take care of all overhead themselves. The same applies for the TOZO subsidy that offers financial support to freelancers and self-employed workers. Although this does not take into account the other loan schemes that have been rolled out in the last few months. In October is when the free cash injections end for both groups and where we will most likely see the unemployment rate increase if demand doesn't pick up. Employment law in the Netherlands furthermore protects the employee, which is a great thing. But it also means that the average redundancy process in times like this can take anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks to complete, which means that the unemployment rates lag behind the current economical numbers by about 2 to 4 months. An increasing unemployment rate will have an impact on the consumer trust, which in result will impact the things people will buy, like cars and homes. The consumer trust index currently does look a bit better in June with a score of -11 versus -31 in May. But this could be a misleading due to the low unemployment rates, holiday pay and brighter looking COVID data. The second is export. 16.1% of the Dutch GDP is taken up by export. This means that we're highly dependent on what happens in the countries we do business with. If people stop spending money there, we will export less. The impact of the governmental support in countries we do business with is therefore very important in the equation. Also, if companies go bankrupt, it can impact the production chains, which will lead to a vicious cycle. International economic relations is a difficult one to gauge, but one that I believe is expected to impact the Dutch economy nevertheless. The last factor that could impact the trust index is COVID-19 itself. The virus doesn't care about any of the above, and according to experts who have been looking at the trajectory of the virus, it seems to behave like a normal influenza. Better in spring and summer, worse in autumn and winter. Therefore, make no mistake, the chance of COVID-19 coming back full force in autumn and winter is very realistic. There's a number of countries that do not have the virus under control, and with the world population accustomed to moving across the globe, it doesn't take a lot to spread. We will be better prepared though for it than we were at the start of this year. But a vaccine has not been developed yet and takes up months to develop and reach the market. So if it comes back later this year, this could mean that another set of restrictions on the Dutch economy and those of the countries around us. It depends on how the people respond to a new wave, but even if it is just reporting of the data, without the restrictions, this might impact the way people behave and potentially the consumer trust. If the consumer trust is impacted negatively, this will change the way people look at selling and buying homes. Homeowners will be more inclined to sell before they buy, which will result in more properties for sale. If less people are inclined to purchase, then this will ultimately result in properties being on the market for a longer period, which will result then in a decrease of value in properties. And I believe it will. In 2008, it took 5 years to reach the bottom of the housing crisis, which shows the lagging effect the economy can have on the housing market. This time it's nothing like 2008 because the loan to value is much better nowadays. So the impact of the market might be completely different. The economical projections, however, look completely different as well, due to the impact that it has on countries all around us. So comparing is difficult and dangerous, but I believe that there will be an impact on the housing market nevertheless. In conclusion, we need to ask, is it a bad thing if prices go down? No. Not if you've just bought a home or if you're considering buying a home with a 5 to 10 year plus time frame in mind. Rents in some cities are high and interest rates on mortgages are still low. The Dutch mortgage interest deduction scheme furthermore makes it attractive to own a home. Even if prices go down, the market is destined to get back up on its feet after a number of years. When? That's difficult to say, but I believe it will. And decreasing housing prices furthermore offer starters the opportunity to buy a home, which they otherwise would not have been able to. If prices would continue to go up and increase, it would be an ongoing transfer of wealth from the younger generation to the older generation, making the people that have the means richer and people without poorer, which is a bad thing in itself. And if we're considering the debt that we're currently incurring as a nation and world to fight the virus and keep the world economy running, worse than we think. The youngsters will get the bill for this crisis either way. Making sure that they can build up something of value in challenging times like this is the least we can offer them. Am I positive about the future? Yes. The housing market is destined to go up and down and most likely back up again. And if anything, Covid-19 has shown us to care more about parts of society that have not received the credit they deserve, whether it's healthcare, education, or the increasing amount of flex workers. It has furthermore slowed things down for a lot of people, which has created the time to think about what is important. It has brought people, neighborhoods, and countries together to fight a common cause and has shown the necessity of cooperation and care. It has created blue skies and a new focus on environmental issues. If these things will last is something that I don't know, but I'm a firm believer that a crisis can be used to learn and to grow, both for us as individuals and as a world population.